Welcome, everybody, to episode 12 of PT Shop Talk. I'm Casey Hansen. With me is Nick, R-E-S-P-E-C-T Doling. Hello, Nick.
Good morning, Casey. How's your bracket?
Good. I think probably better than most people. I guess Iowa and Kentucky, I think, were the only hits I took, which it's reasonable, I think. I had both nines winning. So let's see. I had oddly enough, I had Kentucky losing in the next round to Murray State. So my bracket actually looks pretty solid.
Yeah. Yeah, I only had them going I had them winning 2 games and then that was it. So I didn't have it as bad as some other folks. Like my brother snapped me a photo of his bracket. He had Kentucky winning the whole thing.
Yeah, they said Kentucky had been picking up steam yesterday before the lockdown as far as people picking them to win. So
ooh. Yeah. Well,
yeah, Iowa
that's why they call it March Madness.
Yeah, I think I had Iowa going further than I had Kentucky going. So
I had Iowa winning a couple games too, but that's life, man. That's life. I picked the old Jackrabbits. I picked the Jackrabbits to win that one, and they made it pretty close.
Yeah, they made it close. I'd never pick them, but that's okay.
A 13 is not bad. It's not like a terrible one. And there was a 12 over 5 yesterday, just like always, right?
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I did contemplate picking SDSU. Just somebody's got to get an upset, and they are a really good 3-point shooting team. Yeah. Except for that game.
Well,
I thought based on watching them in the Summit tournament, they were losing steam already. That's kind of the Jack's MO in basketball, though. They rely heavy. They rely heavy on their stars. I mean, that year when Mike Dom was a senior, they should have been good. And by the time the tournament rolled around, that dude had played like 39 and a half minutes on average or something like that. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, man.
But I respect you for knowing.
I don't hate Summit basketball. I do watch quite a bit of it. So
yeah, I'm not the biggest basketball mind. I was going to ask you how your approach to March Madness has evolved over time. Being a dad,
I put a lot less effort into
leadership, therapist, all that stuff.
Yeah, I watched a lot more college basketball when I was younger. In college, I guess I didn't watch any of it when I was in high school, but of course I got into it. I don't really have a set thing. I always try to pick a 5-12, although I didn't this year. Just because that, and I would say early on you fall in love with the Cinderella story. So like I'd pick an upset, and then I'd pick that team to continue to go on, which was always a bad technique. So now usually if I pick an upset, they're one and done. They're going to lose the next game.
Yeah. That's kind of been my MO.
Yeah, I've tightened it up a little bit. I guess a little more of a system, but as far as researching on which teams are better, a lot of times I just go basketball power index.
I didn't know
offense versus defense.
I didn't know that. But my bracket took me all of like maybe 90 seconds to fill out this year.
Yeah, we
online just using the app.
Yeah, we do brackets at our 3 clinics and see mostly for bragging rights. I usually take the winner out for lunch or whatever, but because it's never me. So it's never me. We have one therapist that's won it like 3 of the 4 years he's been there. So
yeah, they really get down and dirty with the.
Not at all. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know how he does it every year, but
yeah.
And then I definitely watch way less basketball now. I used to. March Madness was kind of that Thursday, Friday was always super fun when I was younger. So I wouldn't say I'd ever, like in college, I would kind of set aside the day. Once I became a professional, it was a little.
You didn't take a couple days off and.
No, not once I became a therapist. But, my first job, we had a gym / wellness center attached. So, I mean, we had 6-7 TVs on in the gym with the games on. So.
Yeah, we just have one on, but it's still nice. I mean, it's a nice atmosphere. And people are always
I
kind
don't
of
think
popping in,
patients
checking in.
care. I've never had patients who are like, oh, I really need you to focus on us right now instead of, because it's not like you're sitting there watching the game, but it's nice to hear it. And
yeah, check out the score, just talk about it a little bit. It gives you,
yeah.
I mean, you find some common ground with some patients, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean,
you're right though. If you stop a treatment, you're just like agonizing over, the final like 10 minutes of the game. That's probably not a good idea.
Yeah. Well, we got 2 left. All right. Hop on the news step for about 10. We got to finish this thing out.
Yeah. Awesome therapy, high quality stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I've watched zero basketball yesterday. My brother messaged me about the Kentucky loss, killed his bracket. So big shout out to my brother Ty. Too bad.
For being garbage. Yeah.
Yeah. I really got into it like again in college. I love tournaments. I mean, that comes from like a wrestling background because so many things are tournament oriented. You can burn through them in that sport, and I think I love the idea that you win, you move on, right? And it's going to ideally progressively get tougher. It's like just anything else. Karate Kid, blood sport. Keep winning, and it's only going to get better. Yeah, I've won our bracket here, I think twice. And there's few and far between. Usually I used to, at least by the final, by the time it got to conference championships, I was keeping my eyes on the screen a little bit more and kind of understanding who was trending up and who was finishing pretty well. But I mean, really the last 5 years, I've had almost no involvement in that scene at all. And my brackets have been trash. I just kind of, like I said, took 90 seconds, I've turned into the guy who picks Baylor to win because that's one of our kids' names.
Oh,
so literally, I mean, that's true story. Like,
I did.
They are number one.
Yeah, I picked Baylor to win myself, not for that reason, but
yeah,
I picked Baylor to win because I had a student from Baylor. So we're just dads now. It's like, oh, Baylor, they must be good. They won it before.
Yeah, there was a year my wife won it because she picked Duke. So you're like, it was one of those years Duke, and I think Duke was like a runner-up, but she picked him to like win it all, and the rest of her bracket was solid. But she's like, I always wanted a dog named Duke, so I took Duke.
Yeah, we had a coworker at my previous job that just always did favorite mascot. That was her style.
Yeah, colors too. I've heard people who do the color thing, and yeah,
she would always, the other technique she would do was places she had been or been close to of the two.
Yeah, little proximity, little rub, positive rub.
Yeah, she was absolutely terrible. She about the only person I'd ever consistently beat in the bracket, really. So that was good.
Well, this weekend is also NCAA college wrestling championships as well. So just, keep that on your radar. They kicked off yesterday. Some big time upsets too.
Oh, I haven't been following.
You don't typically see that at this level, not in the first 2 rounds. So, we had a defending national champ go down. Carr from Iowa State. He was the defending champ at 157 and undefeated. He went down in the round of 16 yesterday. So he did 2 rounds yesterday. It's 2 rounds in the championship and then a consolation round.
So wrestling similar, you're one and done?
No, you can come back and take third.
Okay.
Yep. And everything, they collect team points on that, and that's how they determine the team champion right now. So it's kind of I really see between Penn State and Michigan. Michigan came out of nowhere, and not out of nowhere, but in the first time in forever, they won the Big Ten. Big Ten's by far the best wrestling conference in the country. It's not even close. Yeah. So they won that. Penn State's been dominant forever. Iowa came back last season and won it last year and brought all these dudes back, but they've been really banged up and underperforming. So I don't see them winning it. But Penn State's just got their horses can run the whole table and win it all. I don't know about Michigan. I don't know if they have enough, if their guys can be champs yet. So pretty cool there. NDSU's got a guy in the quarters.
Oh, Jared. Man, I knew they had a few guys. What, they have 3-4 guys that made it?
Yep, Jared Franek is 157. He's in the quarterfinals. So that'll be pretty cool. Cheering him on this morning. West Fargo guy.
Yeah, I know he's at a Good season. Had some one weird loss at least in the year, I know, but I don't follow it that closely, but I kind of always follow anything NDSU throws across my phone. So yeah, I also took about 10 seconds to fill out my bracket yesterday. I went to a concert Wednesday. I believe we talked about it last time. So Slipknot, that was my adventure on Wednesday. Got up Thursday morning and I was like, oh crud, because I'm not at work and I need to get this in. And I know everybody's going to say I'm cheating. So I had to get this thing filled out, send pictures out to people. But yeah, concerts. That's been a while. Heavy metal, man. It was a cool concert.
Packed house?
Oh, I don't know. You know, they had it at the Fargo Dome, so it's pretty hard to pack the floor. I mean, there was a lot of people there. Cool. But the Fargo Dome's not the best place for a concert, I guess. Unless you're, it's probably not bad for Elton John. I think he's rocking and rolling it this weekend.
More intimate.
Yeah, it's something where you throw seats on the floor and but when you pack bodies in, it's always going to seem a little empty in there. So yeah, they sounded good. I can't say I've ever been to like a heavy metal hard rock concert where like the vocals have sounded great, just based on the
good point,
the bass and the loudness. So it wasn't bad when I was closer to the stage, because my whole thought process was, where do I want to stand?
Yeah,
I don't want to be up front because I know people are going to push on me the whole time, and that just frustrates me.
Yeah, we're too old to be pushed on.
Yeah,
not that I ever loved it, but when you're younger, it's more acceptable. And you just
I mean, there was a time where I could put my hands on the rail and just hang.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Also, did not want to.
Then you've made it right.
When you can get like two people, like you always find one person in front of you, but then you can get the rail, and you're good. You're set.
Yeah, way back in the day, I think it was 2004. 5. Me and a couple buddies were there for up in Fargo at the Civic for Disturbed. We worked our way all the way up to that level. Exactly what you're talking about, holding on to the barricade. You're that close, and then you feel like you've done something, you've accomplished something special.
Yeah, because usually you have to like fight your way through the mosh pit to get there at those concerts. So that's always an adventure. So that was the next step, was like, I don't want to be in the mosh pit, but I want to be like 1 or 2 rows back from the mosh pit, because I'll have a good view of the stage, because the mosh pit doesn't really obscure your view very much.
Still a lot of moshing going on, like Wednesday night?
Yeah, there was. Yeah. My food for, my thought process, I was going to be like about 40 feet from the barricade.
Yeah.
I was off by about 5 feet, because I was in the heart of that mosh pit when it started. There was like a little tiny dude in front of us. First song, just starts flinging himself around, and people start pushing him, and then people start pushing me, and then it just breaks out into this mosh pit, and I'm flailing around trying to escape. I felt like a piece of laundry in the dryer.
Rubber arms whipping around.
Well, I'm trying to be nice. I'm like, sir, let me out, please. And they just keep shoving you. Like, you're trying to get out of this thing, and every time you make a beeline, people are just push you right back in.
I didn't see that. I'm like the same damn way, even in a rock. Like, excuse me. Sorry. Gotta get sorry.
I'm screaming at people with my eyes. And they're like, wow, look how intense this guy is in the mosh. He must love it. Let's shove him back in. I'm like,
excuse me, please.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So what did they open with? I'm a big, what did they open with? What did they close with?
Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to remember. Like I said, I was in the midst of the mosh pit. I don't even remember what their opener was. I know they closed with Spit It Out, which was, I thought, very interesting closer. I had no idea they would close with that, from their very first album, which is a little, I don't know if it's popular, I suppose, but I wouldn't have thought that was one of their most popular songs. I would have thought they would have closed with like Wait and Bleed or Snuff, either something, a throwback like Wait and Bleed, or a slow song like Snuff. They didn't. God, I'm trying to think what they started with.
Oh,
it won't come to me.
It's okay.
I don't want.
I usually go to like after the fact. I like to go to like setlist.com, because somebody's always uploading that.
Yeah, they had a good set list. They played pretty much every hit I wanted. They played Snuff, which I assume he's not lying about this. They said they hadn't played it in 13 years, which was surprising to me.
Really? Yeah, that
Yeah.
would surprise me.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot different than the rest of their music, but
Did they wear the mask the whole time? Stay in the gear?
oh yeah, man, these guys are almost 50 and they're
Still
rocking these masks out, and they had a ton of pyrotechnics. You know, the bassist has a flamethrower attached to his bass. And you know,
that's something to see.
You know, they have this tactical gear on in these masks. I'm like, that has got to be hot.
Excuse me, sir. Are you sweaty?
Yeah, I'm in the mosh pit, throwing him a bottle of water. Like, you look parched.
It sure seems like that would be so. Okay, well.
In this moment, open for him. That was an interesting band. I don't know if you're familiar with their work at all.
The name sounds familiar, but I don't know.
I would say their two big hits was like Blood and Whore, female lead singer.
Okay.
But
still not ringing a bell, but
yeah,
is she on your top 5 today?
No.
Okay.
But she is a good singer, though. I think I can't say I didn't think about having her on, but they were very theatric. Like, reminds me of definitely like the metal stuff from the 80s where it was like this stage show. But it was tough because she just has like the headphone mic on, you know, like a Justin Timberlake, and she's got this long hair and the wind's blowing, so you never see her face, and she's just headbanging. She did an outfit change between every song.
The wind's just whipping in the Fargo Dome.
Yeah, so it was, but like it never felt like she was even singing. I felt like I was watching a lady do like a play, like a interpretive dance almost.
Yes, I can. Okay, yes. It
always reminded me when I was down in South Carolina, Georgia, selling books door to door. I would go to like non-denomination and Baptist churches down there just because I was interested, and they would always do like these interpretive songs.
Yeah,
you know, like that's kind of what it reminded me of. You know, the first song, she was full white sheet, head and everything covered. So, I mean, you never even saw her face. She's like sitting there. She did Fly Like an Eagle was what she opened with, which was interesting.
Oh,
It was actually a pretty cool rendition of it, but
yeah.
You know, she had these like 2 posts that she stood like her arms on, and she would use those to like fling her body around. And it's like, I had to look her up. I was like, God, man, does she have like some sort of like progressive disease or something that she has to use these to hold herself up with? But apparently it was just for looks, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
but yeah, it was
for
good.
Show, not for go.
Yeah. The show went late. I think it finished up around 11:30, which for me is pretty late.
Let's get there.
You know, again, dad style, they do the encore, you know, and he comes out and I'm like, oh, great, one more song. Let's wrap her up. And he's like, yeah, we're going to do, would you guys want to hear like 3 or 4 more songs? And I'm like, no.
I would be fine with one, sir. And then I got to beat this traffic. Just like all those.
Just pick your favorite, please.
Like, we're going to leave at halftime.
Well, and then like, we had met at the Turf to grab a bite and a drink before the concert just after work because didn't have much desire to get there at 6:30 for the first band. And we decided it was a nice night out. We were going to walk because I didn't know if we could have got parking. I don't know why I walked, but which was all fine. It was a great walk, but the walk back afterwards was long. It's old area. Those sidewalks were completely flooded on the way back. It was kind of a miserable walk back, but yeah, I got home about 12:30, and then I had a 7:30 meeting in the morning with another hospital about some contract work. And it was a weird thing. Like I get an email at like 6:40 from this person. They're like, yeah, I've been out all week and I really haven't talked to my staff and they can't make the call. Can we just have it tomorrow instead at 8:15? And it's like, no. I emailed back. I said, not a chance. Like, I have patients and we're trying to work through scheduling. And it's like, I have patients and I have my staff coming on at 7:30 and I'm not going to just cancel on them at the last minute. So then as far as negotiations went, she was like, fine, just do whatever you guys want and we'll cover the difference. Okay.
He just strong-armed her.
Yeah, that was about the easiest negotiations on something like that I've ever
There's a
had.
time to be polite. There's a time where you just gotta be solid and firm. I've had so many meetings with a particular hospital system that were blown off like 20 minutes ahead of time or half an hour ahead of time because people just didn't come prepared or weren't going to be prepared or had forgotten about it or whatever. And man, it gets very frustrating. It's almost maddening at some point.
Yeah, that's
and
like
it shows you how much it just opens your eyes to how much these are high level administrators too. And you're like, man, there's a lot of inefficiency here. And I get that there's always going to be other things out there, but holy cow. Like,
well, yeah, it just seemed like it came down to she just wasn't ready and didn't want to do it. Like, that's not a great reason to cancel. Also, like, it would have taken 10 minutes for her to talk to her team to get the information she needed. Like,
yeah.
And then later in the day, she sent out an email like, well, I finally got a hold of the team and they said whatever you guys proposed would be fine. It's like, well, yeah.
There you go.
You're kind of stuck at this point because you didn't go to the meeting. So
you're such a badass negotiator. Wish I could hang out with you more.
I'm not at all.
Take you with me and buy vehicles.
Yeah. No, my wife does that work. That's what my wife does my wife negotiates for a living.
You're learning from the best.
She's good at it. Yeah. Last time we got our car, like I sat in shock as she just kept like negotiating on the car. I was like, oh, can we go like 1,000 below the price? And they're like, and my wife's like, well, we need this. Let's go like $10,000 below. The guy's like, oh, that's a slap in the face. I can't even tell my manager that. Well, why don't you go tell him? I'm like,
boy,
sat in the corner.
We could rabbit trail on this negotiation topic because we just bought a house last year too, and how that goes down, selling and stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, the strongest negotiation tactic is always legitimately be willing to walk away, like being comfortable with it. Not being so emotionally invested in like winning the negotiation, but actually just truly being like, gosh, this is really worth everything. So,
yeah,
that's my take. It's a hot take, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a lukewarm take.
I can't say anything. I'm a terrible negotiator, so I happen to be one of those let's make everybody happy kind of guys. Which, as I've learned,
I don't want hard feelings. I mean, you've heard me say that before too. Like, and that's if they're already young therapists or students listening, right? I don't want to lowball anybody. Like on an offer, it's like let's give them the best offer we can come to and just get it over and done with. Yeah. The fairest thing we can do based on what we're repaying our other staff, what you're bringing to the table. If there's meat on the bone for you to truly develop a program and get something new off the line, that brings value. But otherwise to be like, well, this is what I can get somewhere else. And it's like, okay, well, good for you. We just fortunately we had that happen a couple of days ago where in the region we had a brand new grad come in and they wanted their final I guess ask or line in the ground on salary was if you do the math, it's about $6,000 more than what they were initially saying. And and it's like, well, kid, what's the difference here? And well, because I went and basically took your offer and then interviewed somewhere else and they came above it. So it's like, geez, well, no, we can't really do that. Not for a new grad.
Yeah, you don't know really someone's value until they start working for you. But I don't know. That's where culture's at, though. I think people are more, again, this is a rabbit trail. This is becoming Rantcast Part 2 again.
Yeah. We haven't even touched modalities yet.
We'll get there. But yeah, people are just way more talkative about salaries. You can go online and go on Reddit or Twitter or Facebook. And people are very candid about their salaries. It's not like you could always go to the Department of Labor and know what salaries were. That's not new, but just seems like people are talking a lot more. Yeah. And it's tough because everybody wants apples to apples in almost every situation. It's apples and oranges.
We just need to pull the trigger on a hybrid compensation model, which could be a whole nother, that could be a whole episode itself. And where you just say, yeah, here's your base. we'll maybe give you a little bit more if you come with some legitimate certifications that add a different service line.
Mhm.
Then everything else, you're just going to get a percentage off of what you do, the actual work that you do. And then it's
Yeah.
all super fair. You don't have to keep, you don't have to keep chasing these things because, it's just eventually it all just comes to a head.
Mhm.
Because we're not getting reimbursed more, especially not at the rates. If you look at the increases in salary expectations over the last 2 years,
Mhm.
like compared to where reimbursement's at, it's like, God, this thing's gonna totally be an inverted curve here.
Yeah, it's interesting when, like, obviously your staff knows like where you're at with COVID and everything. I most of us have all bounced back from it, but I mean it was leaner for a while.
Mhm.
I would say I hope most people in the profession know what's going on with Medicare cuts and how that all panned out. And maybe they don't know all the ins and outs of it because they're like, well, that got kicked down the road. And it's like, well, it did. And like, there's still a cut,
Mhm. Yeah.
Based on whatever CPT codes you look at, it probably amounted to less than a 2% cut. But,
Mhm.
you got the
Still a
cut there.
cut. It's still a cut. It's not an increase.
Yeah, right.
So no matter
It
what,
didn't even match inflation,
Again, it's inverted, and inflation. And I'm not blaming people for needing some to just live, right?
Mhm.
Because you look at the cost of everything and how fast it's gone up too. I mean, that's definitely part of it. But if we keep trying to chase that and do adjustments, like what's the new normal? Is it going to be like, do you have to do an adjustment every like 6 months? It's going to be every 3 months. That's not possible.
Yeah, and people want, when it's good times, 0% inflation. I mean, people want raises because they do good work. And then when it's like high inflation times, they're like, well, I need an adjustment for cost of living. And like eventually, like you said, if you're not doing some sort of compensation model, like you're gonna price yourself out. I mean,
yeah,
when you own a clinic, I mean, there's something to having a mix of experience levels of therapists just to kind of buffer that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You have 5 or 6 seasoned therapists on your staff that are all making pretty good salary. I mean, there's a limit, right? You can't generate more revenue at a certain point as a therapist.
Yeah.
And there's just not a high enough margin.
Right.
A good surgeon, probably can do higher end surgeries and generate more money. But when it comes down to it, other than bringing patients in the door, Therax is Therax. Therapeutic activity is therapeutic activity. Whether you have 15 years of experience and 2 board certs and something else, you get reimbursed the same.
And it becomes really problematic when, as you said, people share things now, and when we're good, I think we're very transparent more and more on where stats are at, right? So that's a positive because it creates a nice competitive atmosphere. I think it shows people that, hey, if these other clinics are doing it, why can't I, right? They're not making excuses and they're getting after it. So that stuff's good. I think you maybe felt this a little bit, but we've had other clinicians who are like, hey, why don't we do something more merit-based? Because I know where my metrics are and I'm better than anybody else in this practice, but yet, I'm not getting paid as well. And you're like, well, they have 10 more years of experience, but what good is that experience if they're underperforming?
Yeah.
So very, very interesting topic that could, that we should really devote a whole cast to, at some point.
Yeah, but let's talk about a topic that's even better.
Yeah.
Modalities.
Ultrasound, ionto.
Yeah, TENS, ultra shockwave BS therapy.
Diathermy.
Yeah, there you go.
Who can be more obscure?
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into our modalities talk. We can probably do about 10 minutes on modalities and then we'll hit our top 5. So tell me a little bit about, as far as modalities when you were in school. I mean, how were modalities presented at that time? Because I would say historically our profession, probably 80s, early 90s, was a lot more modality heavy than it is now. So how was it presented to you?
Yeah, my notes is actually my initial exposure to it went back to being in high school when I was going through therapy and then doing some just student observation. But I believe my first experience of it was rehabbing my knee after a scope and having, like down the road, having some ultrasound performed, with that treatment. Later on, I'd had SC joint separation, and just in the middle of wrestling season, so to control the inflammation. I remember I was receiving Ionto at the time. And I thought it was like really magical, when you're
As a
17.
high schooler, did like the ultrasound too, where you're like, man, this is high quality care,
I figured, hey, it must
better.
be working. I didn't,
Yeah.
you don't really know when, and you think, yeah, it must be, and then I went before even going into school, and I did some Russian stim too. I remember that I had, they applied the Russian, which I do think there's value in that for re-education purposes to the quadriceps. And then as a PT tech in undergrad, I was actually given the reins to the ultrasound machine at times and did a lot of that. I think that's maybe where I started getting a little bit of my disenchantment with it. But that was my first initial exposure. Then you get into therapy school and you realize, like, you do the education on, you understand kind of the science behind like how these things theoretically work, right? But we also were concurrently delving into the research that was showing that they're really ineffective, particularly like ultrasound or those dosages that are applied. So that by the time I came out of school, I had an extremely negative perception on modalities, with the exception of using like NMES stim. So that was kind of like my initial exposure to them and my thought process with them. How about you?
Yeah, my first exposure probably would have been doing my observation hours, because and the therapist I followed did use ultrasound pretty heavily. Also like massage guns, not like the Theraguns we have nowadays, but they had like looked like a belt sander, or not a belt sander, but a finishing sander, they would kind of do that on everybody. So like you as a high schooler, it's like, well, it must work, like they're doing it. And then we get to college and we actually had a whole class on like e-stim modalities. Like wasn't just a week-long little tidbit, it was a whole class on it. I mean, wound care, for high volt, for facial stuff. I mean, we covered it all and how it affected the body. And I think may have finally just gotten rid of that class at UND.
Shucks.
Yeah, shoot.
Yeah, we took turns slapping the pads on each other's quads, and like who could tolerate more Russian at a higher intensity. That was fun.
We did that at my first job, actually. We used to do weekly what we would call feats of strength. We would challenge the staff to some sort of feat of strength, whether it was holding your breath or who could hold a small base quad cane out in front of them the longest.
Did you ever do the evil the evil deed of, did you hold the ultrasound wand in one spot?
No, we didn't do that one. That was I don't know. I was afraid I would explode the crystals, Nick.
Yeah, or fry somebody from the inside out.
Yeah.
But
similar to you though, it's like we learned all these modalities, but then all the research they presented us was very negative. But even then, going out on my rotations, my ortho rotation anyways, it still was heavily used. But that was the same thing where they just had a tech doing it, which now in North Dakota has been kind of poo-pooed. You can't really have techs. Yeah. Our practice act pretty much explicitly states that a tech can't do anything you bill for, a tech can't do in North Dakota, which is...
So do you think I could move back and be grandfathered in?
Yeah, I don't think they'd allow that.
Pick up a tech job.
I used to do it. Yeah, no, I know that came down maybe 5-6 years ago, just because it was getting to the point where a lot of clinics were using their techs for the TheraX aspect of the sessions,
Yeah.
So when you were double and triple booking patients, it was just tech, one guy in the middle sitting on a tower, kind of watching pretty much a CrossFit type type environment,
the glory days of therapy, right?
Yeah. But I mean, if you're going to be honest, those patients probably got better because they were doing 45 minutes of exercise. I did
that too. I mean, as a tech, I was doing that. I was doing a lot of that. because people would be busy. And I just took it like I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved having that opportunity in my role and knew what I wanted to do. But now you look back and you can see definitely where it's a little less than,
Yeah,
quite
I
a bit.
mean, I think as a therapist, you devalue yourself if that's, what you think of, like, well, how skilled is your interventions if you just say, hey, take this person through our shoulder exercises.
Inter-rater reliability, very low, right?
So
So
so I came out of college also thinking, for the most part, ultrasounds. I also liked NMES, and I thought at the time TENS allowed me to do some things with patients a little more comfortably. So we had little TENS units, so I'd slap it on sometimes, especially because when I came out, I was still of that mindset of, stretch the crud out of stuff. If it's a post-op knee that's not bending well, stretch it more. Adhesive capsulitis, although we were kind of in the mindset of therapy didn't do anything for adhesive capsulitis, but if they wanted to try, stretch the heck out of them. So throw TENS on so I could do even more damage and swelling to them. My thought process has changed on that. So
I think there's an approach to that too. And there's so much nuance into like how you got me thinking of adhesive capsulitis, but how much nuance there is to like how you stretch, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you mobilize that joint? And that's one of the flaws, as we've said before, one of my perceptions of flaws in research, right?
Yep.
How are they really applying it? Some of it's just sustained, prolonged static stretching, which is obviously going to be very uncomfortable and, to your point, create a lot of inflammation, So when I came out of school, I had this terrible connotation with pretty much all modalities. And I think early on, I've shared this with some new hires as we went through orientation and stuff. And I think that early on, I made the mistake of being very overly dismissive of them, especially when patients were actively, engaged in the process and told me, "Hey, I think the ultrasound helped me in the past," and I'd be like, "Oh, well,
you're wrong." But I got better. No, you didn't.
Here's some egg on your face,
Don't you feel stupid?
They
sold you a bill of goods.
I wasn't that abrasive, but at the same time, I was very much like, well, I'm not going to do that type of treatment because there's really zero research that supports it. It says that as much as anything, it's a placebo effect. So as soon as you tell somebody it's a placebo effect, it's all in their head. They're like, screw you, dude. Like I know what I know. So I kind of drifted back after a couple of years and just using them as much as anything. And I had a different therapist. He talked to me about maybe playing around with some of the intensity and the parameters of ultrasound, like going beyond some of what they would historically do because it's too low dosage. So I kind of bought into that for a little bit and maybe tried it and used it as a tool. Like we've said, you got that 8 to 10 minutes to like build some rapport, talk with them and maybe educate them on other stuff and get them on board with everything else that you're doing and maybe get value that way. But then I got a funny story that a few of the Marshall folks would remember. Completely went away from ultrasound when I was managing the practice, kind of co-owning it. I don't remember what year this was, but I show up to my office and there's a broken sound head for the ultrasound machine. We'd had a couple of units, but they're the one that everybody would really like. Somebody had evidently dropped the sound head. The head broke off it. But there's kind of an unprofessional way to go about your business. Just leave it in your boss's office. Like,
nobody owned up to it.
Nobody owned up to it. So I wasn't even pissed. I was like, okay, whatever. So I just kept the wand up on my shelf, and I think it went like well over a month. And we're doing a weekly meeting, and somebody, I'm not going to presume they're the guilty party at all. Somebody just asked, they're like, hey, whatever happened to our ultrasound head? I'm like, funny story. So I said, I'm not really feeling urgent to get it fixed. And no, it's a mystery. It just ended up on my office desk with a broken head, and we're just not going to replace it. I think there's better things we can do with our treatment time than ultrasound patients. And if anybody feels different, please let me know. But no, we moved away from it, and I can't tell. I think the last time I applied an ultrasound was probably 2014, maybe.
Yeah. It's been few and far between for me. I guess so. Yeah, we talk about we still apply it. Just the chronic nature of some of the patients I see. I mean, if they really ask for it,
yeah,
if it does feel like it's going to get them a little moving a little more comfortably, I've still used it. But I would say, I don't know if I've done it 10 times in the last 5-6 years. I mean, it's pretty rare because there's some dependency there that I get a little concerned of. I had one patient probably about 4 years ago, mid-thoracic pain. She came in wanting the ultrasound. We did it for a little bit just to warm up the area, and then did quite a bit of movement in the area, rows, overhead, horizontal abduction, just trying to target that area. And that would always be, she'd be like, it does feel pretty good. I feel great afterwards, and got to the point where 2 or 3 sessions in, it's like, all right, we're going to be done with the ultrasound now. We're just going to move into the exercise because you can't take the ultrasound with you.
Yeah.
She got better. I mean, she had a flare up once after a fall, but even then it was, I think, 2 sessions and she was good discharger. I got a call maybe like a year later that's like, hey, so-and-so wants to know what the model of ultrasound you guys use is. Okay. So I called her and was like, hey, what's going on?
On her own unit or what?
Yeah, well, she had moved to the cities and she had been feeling great, but she had started to get some pain again in that area. So she went to therapy there and they were doing ultrasound, but she didn't think the machine was the same because it didn't feel as good.
There you have it.
So
you cracked the code.
So she wanted to tell the therapist what machine we had, and if they weren't going to get one, she was going to buy her own. And
those Fargo guys know what they're doing when it comes to ultrasound.
It's like, it's.
I know.
I was like, ma'am, we use the same ultrasound that I think every single.
We've got tunnel vision on the ultrasound on this part, but my little mini rant related to last week's topic on audits.
Yeah.
The group that audited us, the one thing is I didn't want to be divisive in the meeting, but they lose almost all credibility when they have zero issue with ultrasound and the volume of times that was applied during one of those cases, right? And there's no evidence behind that, but they'll scrutinize the fact that like the reps and weights and things weren't progressed on some of these exercises. Like they'll delve into all that, but at no point do they raise a finger about the ultrasound application when there's like no evidence at all to support the use of it anymore. So it all just comes down to money and reimbursement.
Yeah,
sadly,
right. Ultrasound is garbage cheap.
Yeah, so we'll pay $10 for that. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. We don't care about that. You do as much of that as you want to, right?
Yeah, you can get 60, 70 units of that in before it triggers your audit.
I should have made a smart ass comment when they talked about units per visit. I'm like, well, what if it was 10 units of ultrasound?
Yeah.
You guys apparently would be fine with that.
That would be okay.
But I did some Ionto a lot. I think Ionto was something that was, I think a lot of physicians around here for quite a while were prescribing it, were wanting that, just writing it part of their script to help control some type of inflammatory process, I suppose. But
yeah, I thought patients responded pretty well to Ionto too. Again, it's probably the buzz. You feel it,
It came with its own headaches though. Like we had to go and the patient had to go and secure their own dexamethasone because in our state in Minnesota, it's still it's a medication and it's something that we couldn't go and order for them. They had to be the ones doing it. And then we had to have a lockbox, restored it or else have them carry it with them every time.
Yep. And then you had to track, expiration dates and everything on it.
Yeah, and on the backside, we found I'm throwing a crude estimate here, but it was the vast majority. I mean, I said 75% were not covered. So we just did them as a write-off. So that too, plus the machines were really finicky, super freaking finicky. So we just hit a point where it's like, gosh, why? Let's just all these things, all these old things that were perceived to be valuable. Let's just get away from them.
Yeah, and Ionto is one of those things too, where you have your positive and your negative patch, and based on your medication, which patch you're going to put it on.
Negative drives the negative.
Yeah, right. So I had a therapist that always put the Dex on the positive pad. And her patients got pretty much the same results. So I was like, I don't know. Maybe maybe it's just the buzzing that they like. I don't know.
You're all about the placebo effect, man. You were trying to tell me that with needling too. So own it here.
Yeah.
Own it here with that Hunto.
So
it's tingling. It's tingling. That means
it must be working. It's the tingle of working.
It's driving that medication in. It's driving it.
But yeah, and we talked last time about is my manual a modality. So I still use some manual stuff. And we're doing a research study with the University of Iowa right now on TENS. TENS used for persistent pain fibromyalgia patients. So I think we'll have our third patient in this today for me. So be interested to see. There's some interesting research there on, spinal cord level changes and things. They've done some actual physiological diving into are there changes with it. So at least there's some science behind it instead of just the patient feels better, it doesn't. But whether those changes really matter. But
interesting.
At least TENS is one of those things where it's gotten cheap enough that patients can buy their own if they like it. It's nothing different for them, right? They can slap it on and go about their day-to-day life. So you're not asking them to do anything above and beyond normal stuff.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
But again, is it a crutch? Is it a brace? Will they ever feel better without it?
But then does it matter? I don't know. You got them to contribute. You got them back contributing in the world.
I would say valid. The patient population we're researching, 10, 20 years of pain. If they're able to clean their house, even with the TENS on, it's a win.
Yeah.
So
crank that TENS up and get them out there, get them a job.
Well, and that's the thing you talk about underdosing. That's a big thing in their research is the problem is even with TENS, people tend to underdose the TENS. They put it on and
you're not doing microburst.
Well, and there's difference between high and low amplitude and as far as body changes and things. So you need something that does both, and you need to crank it up almost to the point of discomfort.
Noxious stimulant. Yeah.
If you want to see real changes. So it's some interesting research. I don't know if it'll affect me one way or the other. I'm still not applying TENS to many people. I've had a few like CRPS patients where I've tried it up in the shoulder and neck for wrist stuff just for input, but even that wasn't overly successful. So that's where I'm at with modalities. We still have an ultrasound, but I haven't used it in a long time.
Park it in your, have somebody drop the sound head and just not fix it. Best thing you can do for that practice. Yeah. Well, that was fun. I think it was less ranty than maybe it was super ranty. I don't know.
Yeah.
In the eye of the beholder.
I don't know. I'm getting better in my old age about hating on it. So
yeah. Well, we got a top 5 that we're kind of got a little excitement behind. Greatest female vocalists of all time for the top 5. So I guess my approach was, and I'll do the same thing for like male vocalists too. You can have a distinct voice, but that doesn't mean you're great. So that was my take on it. I can tell you're researching right now, aren't you?
I'm moving some things around. I forgot to make an adjustment this morning. I had a dream, a vision.
Did you?
No. But I did realize my heart was in a different place this morning. So.
Oh, okay. That happens sometimes. Sometimes you have an epiphany.
Yeah.
At a moment.
I had to be honest with myself last night. So I probably went a little different than you. I did put, when we talk about greatest vocalists, I did go like greatest my enjoyment of hearing them.
Yes.
Because
that's what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if we would just want to go best vocalist, that'd probably be a bunch of opera singers on here that I don't care about. So having a unique voice was an okay thing for me as long as it was good. I'm never going to put like a Bob Dylan on my list, even though his voice is unique.
Well, he's unique and distinct, right?
But that's I actually don't enjoy him as a vocalist. Yeah. So there's definitely some female singers that have some of that, but I actually do think they're pretty good vocalists too. You born with the voice you have, but anyways, I don't know, is it my turn? Do I go first?
I can't even recall.
Go ahead. I'll go first. So again, this list is more vocalists that I enjoy listening to. So I would have to, when we talk honorable mention, I would have to apologize to the likes of Aretha Franklin, Diana Ross. It's just not my style of music. I would say the same with Christina Aguilera and Mariah Carey. I get they have awesome voices, but they oversing a ton. I just don't enjoy that. So they'd probably be honorable mentions. I know they're probably better than
so
the
you
five
respect
folks.
it. You respect it. But all right.
RSPCT.
Cut to the quick. What is it?
Number 5. My number 5 is Amy Lee. Rocker, pretty solid voice. She's probably on my list, maybe the best true vocalist. Just really enjoy the smooth sound. She can belt it out.
She's still doing stuff.
I believe she does a lot of solo stuff. She did a children's album that I actually used a lot of those songs for, like bedtime songs for my kids.
No
lullabies.
Kidding.
Yep.
Wow.
So just she did with her family. It was cool. Like with her sisters, they did some songs together.
Very neat.
Yeah, it was neat. Evanescence was, when they were big, they were big. I mean,
they broke. Yeah, they were.
Yeah. And she's the reason they broke. I mean, her voice was ethereal, but also really loud, and she could belt it out. Sometimes you can get that like a Tori Amos type ethereal sound, but
well, again, going to the hard rock scene, going to the hard rock metal scene, like Kitty had already been out, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Kitty had been out.
But she actually had, like, Amy Lee had such better range.
Oh, way better. Yeah, I didn't mind Kitty, but yeah, she was a middle of the road vocalist for sure.
Yes, if you're being kind.
Yeah. And really their bass, I think it was their bassist, was the grovelly yeller type, so she couldn't even do both really. So no, Amy Lee, that's my number 5.
All right. Honorable mention, I have Mariah Carey, and I do agree with you, on the overseeing piece, but I still got to give talent where it's due, and she's got a handful of songs where when she hits it, man, she nails it. The common theme in mine too is, like, when it's vocals, it's got to be like passionate and believable for me. It's got to feel like they, most people don't write their own music anymore. And that's been the case for a long time. But if you can really sell it in your performance and your voice, man, I'm all in.
Yeah, I think you'll see that theme on my list as well.
Yeah, awesome. So I got her in there. She's got tons and tons of hits when you go back, but more of the ballad stuff would be where she lands, right? And then Alicia Keys is another honorable mention that I have. I think she's got great range. Obviously, she's multi-talented. She came out, I think she really hit because of her piano playing prowess, and that was pretty unique at the time. But her voice is pretty impressive too.
As I was playing around with my list and you were yelling at me, she was the one I just bumped off.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I got her right there on the tippy edge.
So she'd be my 6. So.
Yeah.
I didn't mention her in honorable mention because I had nothing like reason not to have her on my top 6 other than she wasn't as good. So anyways, what do you got at 5?
Number 5, Carrie Underwood.
Okay.
My wife and my mom had gone to a concert of hers about 6 years ago, I think it was. And even before, obviously she's on the radio constantly, so you get familiar with the music.
This is country music, correct?
Yes.
Is that her style? Okay.
So wow, you didn't even know that, huh?
I was pretty confident, but I didn't know if she was pop or country, I guess. It's the same thing now, right?
Pretty blended, yeah, pretty blended.
But I think Taylor Swift started out as country too, right?
Correct, yeah, but she's like full blown. She's been that way for almost 10 years now. I think Taylor's gone like that pop route.
Seems to be.
But I think Carrie's still predominantly country. I think she's considered that. She's got some gospel albums too, where she can really just dominate.
Yeah, if you want a style of music to showcase your voice.
Yeah, so I mean, she can. I think she's got the chops, as Sinatra would say. And after Michelle had gone to that concert, she, as happens, you come back, you start playing a lot of that artist and hearing more of it. I can appreciate more of Carrie Underwood's range and her abilities. She can oversing at times too. You notice that, like, just to show kind of maybe it's a little show offy, but as long as it's believable and it fits the song, it's not terrible, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
But
in
if
the
you're
right
just
moment.
trying to hit like a high note just to show what you can do, then it's a little different. Yeah. So that's my number 5, Carrie Underwood.
All right, my number 4, real rocker, Stevie Nicks.
Mm,
Love her voice. I think it's, there's just something about stage presence. I know that's not what this is about, but just belting it out.
that was last week's list.
No, I like her voice. It's emotional. I mean, Fleetwood Mac had a lot of stuff going on, so there's probably a reason there was a lot of emotion in her voice. But
Yeah.
I went back and forth with her quite a bit on whether
I
belongs
will
on the
debate
list.
you to death on this topic.
Yeah,
I think I will. I mean, she's totally a pure distinct voice, but not a great voice.
You feel like she just doesn't have the range.
She's like a goat, right? You ever see that old South Park where like Stevie Nicks and they wheel out a goat and it's
well, you're letting them influence you.
No, but I mean, I grew up. My parents loved Fleetwood Mac. We played Fleetwood Mac all the time. But I think Christine McVie was a better singer was a better vocalist within that group.
All right.
Yes, that's a hot take. I know it's totally like a minority idea, but
well, and again, it's better technically. Sure. Would I rather listen to her? No. So I guess that's where it comes down for me. So my number 4 is Stevie Nicks.
That's your list. This is fun though. I hope we banter back and forth and beat the hell out of each other.
I am ready to tear down your 4.
My number 4 because I'm saying this is you can make an argument this way too. My number 4 is Tina Turner. Going back like this, but you're right. It could be argued that she's more distinctive, but growing up through the 1980s, she definitely had a lot of bangers, and
she scared me.
Did she?
Yeah. She is intimidating. Need
another hero.
I grew up in music videos. I'm like, that's an intense lady. Okay.
And her voice is awesome. What's Love Got to Do with It was a massive hit, and then she continued to have some hits into the early 90s too, had quite the longevity, which adds value to where she sits on my list as well. Great actress, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, but that's not the list.
No, and that she doesn't belong on that list. So
I got her at my number 4, pretty firm in there.
All right, hard for me to argue. Pretty solid. Yeah, what's Love Got to Do with It? I still find myself singing that sometimes.
And when she hits
it's a good number 4.
Yeah.
My number 3, and it'll be interesting. Longevity is not a part of my list, as you'll see in probably my next 3. My number 3 was Amy Winehouse. Came onto the scene again. Is it the best vocal voice? No. But
which is what this list is.
Again, best vocalist for me. I would rather listen to her than Tina Turner.
No,
yes.
Never, ever.
Just because you don't like her style of music, Nick. Jeez. Listen to the whole album.
No.
There's more to her than this. Just that. Super soulful, deep voice, raspy. I don't know if a lot of people could reproduce her music and make it sound like she sounds. I think it's very cool. Obviously, she was uber popular because of her voice. So
you think it was because of her voice? I think it was because of everything else that was going on with her. I think it was her brash personality, her lifestyle.
It played a part of it, I guess. But I think, I guess, maybe you could argue that because there's some pretty garbage singers right now that are pretty popular. But I don't know. That album she had is bangers left and right. I think she demonstrated some pretty cool vocal talent on there. It wasn't just one soulful note the whole time. So that's my number 3. Amy Winehouse.
It's your list, not mine, but let's have some fun with this thing. That's what the whole top 5 is supposed to be.
I don't take offense. I mean, you don't have to.
No.
You're stuck on it.
That's all I can think about. Oh, God. All right. Number 3. You have Amy Winehouse. I have Adele.
Okay.
As far as a newer representation on here,
Much better technical singer than Amy Winehouse, I will agree.
Dear Lord, yeah. Understatement of the podcast right there.
Rolling in the deep. Pretty cool song to hear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think too, for my money, I think she really, like, she was always good. She was always really, really good. But when Hello kind of really smashed, I mean, that's a freaking song, man. And that can hit you like, just really powerful. And she's got chops, totally legit, and she did, for my money, in the last, I might say ever, probably the best Bond theme song, maybe ever. True.
Okay.
She did Skyfall.
Yeah.
I think it fit the movie, it fit the whole character, everything, the vibe. So, I mean, I think she nailed that too. So I got Adele firmly entrenched as my number 3 spot.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. She could probably replace Amy Winehouse on my list. So
well, it's already
it's too late
into
now.
the recording of Zoom.
I'm gonna stop this.
You're stuck with Amy Winehouse.
I'll fix it in post. No, I love Adele. Adele's awesome. Always love her voice. Yeah, I guess I feel bad that she should be on my list. So I don't even know what I was thinking. So yeah, Adele's great. My number 3 as well. my number
yes.
My number 2, I'm sure you'll hate this as well. It's on a similar Amy Winehouse.
I hope I do, because this has been a fun theme.
But I would say I believe she's more unique and a better singer. Probably the only hit on her is not a lot of original tunes. Definitely more known for covers that made her famous, but that was music at the time. So my number 2, Janice Joplin.
Oh my God.
Just a voice. I don't know. Nobody probably has sounded like Janice since. Again, that bluesy, soulful stuff. You talk about emotion.
Unique. It was very unique. Yeah.
And you might think it's just unique, but it was good. She had a good voice. I mean, she had a lot more range than like Amy did.
So you really like the people who died at the age of 27?
Yeah, she was like one of the first too.
She was. Yeah.
Yep. She started the trend. But yeah, she was tortured.
Choking on your own vomit and dying.
Yeah, don't recommend it for the listeners.
So then,
I was doing some research. She was doing like $200 worth of heroin a day near the end there, which is almost like $2,000 in today's money. So
you have that like darker side to you. I can sense that edge.
Yeah, when you live such a happy, carefree life like I do, you need to delve into that a little bit, just to
vicariously, right?
I don't. My desire to do heroin's low.
Very low for me. Same here.
So this is the closest taste I get. But again, you talk about emotion and voice.
Okay, piece of my heart. I'll give you that on that. Especially when she's getting towards the crescendo. There's some believability there for sure.
Yeah, me and Bobby McGee. There's some good songs there.
I think a lot of those people, and I'm even going, this is about female vocalists, but that whole kind of demographic of tragic young deaths, I think that sways so many people's opinion in like such a stronger way. Like you go back and I don't know, I'm gonna rabbit trail off, it'll kill the top 5, but
you think if she's still alive today, I'd be like, man, she's garbage.
I agree. I do feel that way. I think Amy Winehouse, I wouldn't. No, I'm not gonna say garbage, but I think you lose. They just become an after rant. It's kind of the Beatles effect too. Like I know I'm shifting here, but I'm gonna use this as a metaphor.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I think the Beatles are so beloved because of what they could accomplish in about 5 years, and then they dissolved. Right? They couldn't keep it together. Whereas the Rolling Stones, I'll always say the Rolling Stones are by far a better band. And they had a much stronger track record, but their longevity, which I respect, I think allows them to sit back or go to the back burner in case, because people are like, they're always around, right? And they stick around so long to become uncool, to a period of time. But if you just explode and then you implode, then everybody could be like, oh my God, what a tragic, awesome story, right? If they could have just kept it together, what could they have done, right? If Kurt Cobain could have not blown his head off,
he's not going to be on my list of top male vocalists.
So then why is Janice Joplin?
Because she's good.
Okay.
I enjoy listening to her. She does stuff other people don't. Like I said, I could have a bunch of opera singers on here. I could have a bunch of Adeles on my list. There's plenty.
There's only one Adele. There's not a bunch of Adele.
Plenty of really good technical singers, but I don't know if that necessarily makes you a great lead vocalist in a band.
I think that's what the topic is. This is fun. This is
let's just go to
Jeremy.
Let's go to a recording studio and just see who has the best range. We'll put Mariah Carey on there. We'll put Adele on there. I don't know. I'm sure there's we'll put some sort of dumb country singer on there and call it a day.
Oh, I love it. We're
put Aretha Franklin on there. We'll just put all these soul and fingers on there.
Well, I think my list is stronger so far, and I think so far I've been able to negotiate with you to get you to change your number 3. So, all right, I'll move on. I'll stop hating on this. I'm being a douche right now, so I'll stop it.
Oh, it's a douchey list. Go on.
Oh, okay. Number 2, you weren't supposed to agree with me. Number 2, Ann Wilson from Heart. Again, massive range, massive talent, full believability. Whether it was through the 70s and then into the, they transitioned into the 80s. They had longevity, they had relevancy that persisted and remained. Even into the 90s, I guess. Mm-hmm. Now looking through this list, I mean, they really were still continuing to, crack into the top 40 with hits. So. You could go with Alone. We'd Be There in the Morning. They have a massive greatest hits collection like Dog and Butterfly, Crazy on You. I mean, she really just dominated for a long, long stretch of time. So, somebody that an act as well. Her and her sister Nancy. I'd love to just be able to see them live sometime. Michelle and I have much talk. That was like my mom's favorite band. Time is hard. So we've talked many times about trying to find when they'd be touring around this area and try to get some tickets to take her. It's my numero dos.
Yeah, no, not a bad two.
How are you gonna argue that? How are you gonna argue that?
I'm not gonna argue it because I don't like their music. I never listened to it, so I can't argue it.
Missing out.
Sorry, Nick's mom. Everybody likes third bands.
Marianne Dolan is listening. She is so upset with you right now.
Oh, there goes Thanksgiving. My number 1, again, unique voice. People will be a little polarizing with this one too, I suppose. She probably has better range than everybody on my list except probably Amy Lee. But she gets a few props. Again, that's not what the list is about, but she writes a lot of her own music and she writes it well enough to fit her voice. I think that's why she gets a little props there. The style she writes fits her voice well. She knows how to write for singers. So my number 1 is Sia. Really came on the scene pretty hot here in the last 10 years. Just love her voice. It's got this.
She writes her own stuff, huh?
Yeah, and she writes a lot of stuff.
Is she the one who never shows her face? Does she never show her face?
Very rarely, yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. She became famous as a songwriter, and then later, probably with I forget the name of the album, but Chandelier, Elastic Heart.
Yeah. Okay. That's coming to me. Yeah.
What made her popular?
What's her big hit? I mean, what's she really known for? What's that big one?
Yeah, Chandelier was popular. I'm trying to think of the next album. She had a pretty popular hit too. Put me on the spot like this. But like Diamonds was a Rihanna song. She wrote that.
Okay.
So she had Yeah, Cheap Thrills with Chainsmokers. That was a big hit for her.
Mhm. Yeah.
The Greatest, that was a pretty big hit there too, kind of at the peak of her popularity. So yeah, just love her voice. There's a fragility to it, but it's still strong. When she sings it, for me, as far as emotion goes,
I might have to listen to a little bit more of her stuff.
Yeah, give it a listen, because I don't know, for my money, if there's a singer that has more like undertones of emotion in everything she sings. You know, even something like Chandelier, which is, I'm not gonna say a party song. It's like one of those like pseudo party songs where it's like, yeah, we party, but deep down I'm super sad, and that's why I party.
Gotcha. Ooh, deep.
Yeah,
deep,
so
deep.
even something like that comes across on the surface is like more of a poppy party song, is actually super emotional. So I think she can convey emotion pretty well. Not as good as Janice or Amy, of course, but
she's your number one.
But she's a way better singer.
Okay, all right. Like,
that is part of the list.
You're almost arguing your own against your own points. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go back, give it more of a listen.
Yeah, hit her catalog up, man. It's solid.
I'm like a little familiar, but not hyper familiar. Well, my number one to solidify my top five that just dominated yours.
Yep, that's fair.
You know, I'm not gonna play games and drag it out. It's Whitney Houston, man. Whitney freaking Houston.
Okay, that's pretty solid.
I mean, when in that era, like growing up, when we did, I mean, she was it. She was it as far as the peak of female vocalists, and it felt like when, you know, we mentioned Mariah Carey earlier, it felt as though like when the Mariah started showing up, like they're just trying to get there, right? They're doing everything they can to try to reach that spot, but she'd had it, and she'd already been working her way up with like, and she could kind of do a bluesier version. Obviously, she's known for when she's hitting those high notes, right, and dominating that. But
I'm just not a highs guy apparently, based on my list.
But if you can find her greatest hits album, like go to like Amazon Music or someplace like that, you know, wherever you stream through, and
wherever you listen to PT Shop Talk, also listen to.
Yeah, we're all over the place now. Yeah. So, but start to finish, she had a lot of hits, and showed a lot of range with everything she can do. I mean, a couple of the most famous points, right? Like what people still to this day consider the greatest national anthem singing of all time. The Super Bowl between the Bills and the Giants, right? We just invaded Iraq too, and all that the first time. And I think it's super impressive, fun to go back and watch. It almost gives you a little goosebumpy, you know. And then everything from The Bodyguard. I mean, I Will Always Love You was such a massive hit. You know, you still
everyone knows that one.
Yeah, everybody knows that one, and her hitting the crescendo at the end. But I mean, she had other hits on there that get, you know, kind of neglected, like Run to You. That was another hit. She had a remake of a disco song on there that she, you know, took a really crappy older disco song and just reinvented it for the 90s, and it was really fantastic with her spin on it. If it was so fantastic, I should be able to remember it, right?
Sounds really good. Great.
It's been an early morning. It's been a long week here, so I'm trying.
No, it's she's gonna be another one for me that falls in the Aretha Franklin category of. I know they're awesome.
It's called "I'm Every Woman." That's the song.
Oh, that is it.
It's all in me.
Yeah, it's just music I don't care for, I guess. So doesn't make my list. Doesn't mean she's not a good vocalist. Like I said, we could sit down and look at a soundboard and say who technically is the best. I mean, might as well not do a list.
Well, I think this arguably was our funnest top five, being our most argumentative top five.
Yeah, it's definitely our most different top five, I guess.
Yeah. So we should have listeners out there comment on whose is better and why Nicks is the champ.
Yeah, I mean, you picked just 5 low-hanging fruits that everybody enjoys. I get it.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you Googled top 5 female vocalists and you put them on a piece of paper.
There was literally no Google involved until late last night, when I had, at that point, I can tell by the font, I had 7 already. but I just wanted, I'm like, is there anybody else that I'm missing? And nobody from Google made it onto my actual top 5.
All right.
Like Google opened kind of brought me back to Alicia Keys. That's in my honorable mention, but everybody else was like, just, going by heart, baby.
I've been sitting in the studio just tearing up over Janice and Amy Winehouse songs all week.
Moby Casey.
Yeah, I'll let you have your list. It's a very nice list. I'm sure Listverse will enjoy it.
All right, they will.
I think I can put a poll up on the podcast.
It'd be fun to do that. I could probably figure that out on Instagram too. Once we get this baby uploaded, I think they do a poll on stories and stuff. But
figure it out. But that's episode 12 for the day. We got to get rolling. So thanks everybody for listening. I'm Casey Hansen.
And I'm Nick Doling.
Nick Doling. If you like us, subscribe to us. Watch us on YouTube, comments. And if you have any hateful remarks on Nick's cheesy, easy list, go ahead and email us at ptshoptalk@gmail.com. Until next time, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.